Hey everyone, welcome back to this video series of Google Search Console API and Python. I am super flattered, I would say, by the response that I received from you folks on YouTube, LinkedIn, some personal messages on Twitter and LinkedIn. I think this is keeping me really motivated because it's a lot of work. But thank you so much for watching the videos and sending your precious feedback as well. Before we go into that, I think I am spread on many platforms, so I just want to give you a highlight of where you can connect with me. So first is a YouTube channel. If you subscribe, then all the videos that I'll be dropping, you'll be able to see it. And the reason I see this is I am working on Google Search Console Python tutorial series, but I think I'm also thinking to drop some other Python scripts with ChatGPT and GPT-4 model that I got access to. So you might want to check that out. I'm also on LinkedIn. We can connect there. I'm generally posting a lot about SEO and being in-house SEO and explaining SEO to other folks and how to be in teams and how to implement SEO and things like that. I'm also available on Twitter, where I'm sharing my journey of how I'm starting this newsletter, learning Python, and bunch of other stuff. So Twitter is more so learning in public, building in public, and background scenes or behind the scenes type of a thing. And of course my newsletter, because I'm starting my newsletter with Google Search Console API and Python, but I think it's gonna expand more into Python for digital marketing or Python for building web apps with a marketing standpoint. So I thought that this would be a helpful shout out to all my social handles, so we can connect there. And once again, thank you so much for watching this video as well. Today I have prepared a list before I forget some of the things, because I think in last video I forgot a lot of things. So again, thanks for the positive response, and I'm very much thankful for those who spent time and sent their feedback. There were a few feedbacks that I would like to mention. One was obviously the audio quality issues. I think I was aware of it, but then I was hearing it in my headphones, so I didn't think it was a big of an issue, but I will take care of it this time. The another common theme was, like, can we go a little bit in detail of the basics of Python? And that feedback is well taken. Going forward, I will try to explain a little bit of that and maybe point you to some other resources where I pick those concepts up. And honestly, I also don't understand it very well, so I think what I'm saying is also confusing sometimes. So I will work on my terminology too. I don't interchange things, and I say things as is. There was also another ask that was PPT. So I think last time I shared one PowerPoint presentation. I didn't share a link for that, but going forward, if I at all use PowerPoints in the video, I will share the link for that too. So with that said, this is a page you can join the newsletter. This is my homepage. I revamped this a little bit as well. It talks about all the projects that I have and I'm working on, and a couple of services that I offer. I'm not doing consulting a whole lot right now, spending a lot of my time learning Python and stuff, but this is going to be a page where I'll start making the whole roadmap available of how this series is going to go, because I see tremendous value, and I do have scripts already. I just don't want to overwhelm you folks, so it's going to come every week or every other week, but we will catch up to those scripts very, very soon. So you might want to stay updated on this page, and you will have more information of how things are going to go. There is also a comment section here. If you have any ask, you can just come here, go to comments. I'll change this icon, by the way, I forgot. And you can just drop your ask. It's like, this is something that I'm trying to do. How can I do with Python and Google Search Console data? And I would be happy to write a script if I can. I have already started getting the requests, by the way. So if you have a script, drop it here. I'll make a publicly visible backlog of all those ideas, and maybe we can do something like anonymous votes on those scripts, and then we can approach those scripts in that order. But I think this is all I had in terms of responding to the feedback. Um, Last thing I will say is I'm also learning along the way. I know a little bit of Python because I have spent some time, but as I'm going through this exercise, I'm still discovering new things. I'm learning a lot. So if you come up with the suggestions, those will be a good problem solving, and I can sharpen my skill there as well. So I would highly encourage all of you to come and ask for your scripts. There are no guarantees that I'll be able to work on it, but if the idea is interesting enough and if there is an interest, I would be happy to write a script for that. So with that said, let's get into the second video. Just to recap, in the first video, what we did was basically building a Google Search Console service after setting up all the credentials and stuff like that, and just literally making a very simple call to API to get all the data that we wanted to get, right? So this was a very simple call. I just left you there. I didn't do anything afterwards, and it was good. I mean, for a starting, this was a good script to build. Now we have this script ready. We will build things on the top of this. What we are going to do today is we will simplify this code first of all. Like we don't need all of this. We want to make it one click, and the API connection should be made, and we should be able to move forward with the things that we want to do. So that's kind of first. The second thing that we will do is we will go through more than 25,000 rows of data. I'm going to start from a last code, right? So this is the last code. We did all of those things, and you should have this code available in a GitHub repository. Sorry. So let's go through that. So this is all the things that we did, and you should have this available in the repository, right? In the GitHub repo. You can download from there. I will start saving all the scripts in a final code video series as a folder. So what I'm going to do is I will make a copy from this, and as soon as I make this copy, I will have this code move to final video series, and I'm going to select this folder. Okay, so we have this with us. I'm going to work off of this so you have a full context of what is happening. Okay. Now, we never install it, but I think since I have it, I will just run it once. So I am going to say this is going to be a second video, GSC API, 25K plus data, dimensions, export to CSV. Okay, perfect. Now I will run this. While this is running, what I would like to do is I would like to consolidate the code as much as possible, right? So if we do this, then we can just copy paste everything. We don't need all of this. It can be a single call and things will work, right? So let's do this. Perfect. So since we know what this code is doing, I'm just going to remove all of this. You can refer back to the last video and you will be able to understand. But after you know this, I don't think you need to know, have these comments and all of that. So I'm going to remove it. I will also remove this. So this we will just like clean up the code really quickly. And now this is the entire code that we have, which will just connect very quickly. Okay. So we continue, we obtain the authorization code, very simple, we put it here and it will do everything else afterwards, and this should have built the webmaster services by now. The way for us to check whether it built the service properly or not, we will just use this function, and as soon as it returns us the things that we want to see, we are certain that the API is working. Now what we will do moving forward is, last time we used this website as an example. From now on, we will use this website MonoQ as an example. This is one of my clients' website. We never worked on this. I haven't worked on this website, but I know that this is a very good website from a content perspective. It has tons of traffic. And I want to thank Rakesh Patel for giving me this website so I can experiment with it and I can show you all the data that I wanted to show you. Going forward, If you want me to review your website using Google Search Console data, you can send that to me as well. And I would be happy to, let's say, explore one or another problem that is very specific to your data or your website. Awesome. So thank you so much, Rakesh Patel, for this. Going forward, we will use this. So because we are going to use this website now, I will say, I'll just copy paste this. I will delete all of this. Instead of website, I say, give me the sitemap for, and it is getting a sitemap for this. What I will also do is I will remove all of this code because I don't think we need to do any of it. So let's just not do sitemaps because we don't necessarily need it. We will keep this code because this is a Google Search Console data, obviously. Let's do March. So I'm going to change this date. So 1st March to 3rd March, and I'm just going to get query, for example. Okay. So this is getting all the data. We are checking the length of how many rows of data that we have. And now I'm going to hit publish, and it is going to publish all the data that we have, which is fantastic. Now, everything is good, but we start to get into a problem with this, which is we just have maximum of 25,000 rows of data. So for that, I will expand this further and I'll say, give me data from February to March and just give me the query. And by just getting query also, we have, let's do January. So 23,000 rows of data. What I'm going to do to ensure that we have full month of data, more than 25 rows of data, I'm going to say I'll have 2 dimension. If I need query as well as page in the rows of data. So when you have that permutation and combination, you will have a lot more rows, and obviously it will exhaust 25,000. So now in this call, we are going to have 25,000 rows of data, and that's fine because we cannot go above 25,000 rows, right? Like let's say if you make this as a value as 50,000, then it is probably going to return some sort of an error, and it says that the call is not valid. So I will stick to 25,000. But the challenge in front of us is we know that for those 10 days, we have way more than 25,000 rows of data. So how do we call those? How do we bring all those data? And for that, we will have to use while loop. But before we go into that, I wanted to take you to a couple of websites that I think should be very valuable to all of you. And where I think I started learning Python is actually on W3 Schools. I think my journey has been about learning HTML, CSS has been on W3 Schools. Python I learned on that. MongoDB I think I learned on that. A little bit of SQL I learned there, and right now I'm learning JavaScript. So I think this is fantastic. I love it. There's absolutely no doubt about it. Here, I want to bring a couple of things to your attention. First is operators. Operators are basically all the basic arithmetic that you will do. And there is a hint that we will use something called modulus here during the Google Search Console call. And I will explain to you why. But you would like to see how to use Python operators. Then the second is list. List is very important. Like how you build a list and how to use a list is absolutely necessary. Anytime you will build a data frame, you will likely first build a list and then you will save it into a data frame. It is way more efficient. It is less time consuming. So there are only few things that you can do with a list. You can like sort it and join it and append it and remove something and deduplicate it and change it, access some of the items and all of that. You should know how to do that. Those are like basic operations, and you will gather these things in a bite-sized chunk, and all will come together later on. There are tuples and sets as well. I don't use them a lot, so I don't have a lot of context there. But I think it operates similarly as a list, but there are some minor differences in that. The second thing I use a lot other than the list is actually dictionary. And let's say when you will see a API response come in, they generally come in as a dictionary or a JSON item. So you might want to learn that. Then there are if and else, or these are called like conditions or conditionals. You would want to learn that. And after that, there are while loops and for loops. And that really completes the basics of Python. this also, if you understand this, I think these concepts will also be helpful for you in other languages. So I would say that I know it looks overwhelming at start, but you might want to spend, I would say at least a few hours understanding this, getting familiar with it, and then ideas will start to pop up in your mind. And as you feel yourself comfortable, then you can approach to build a function, and function is also very simple, but we won't go into that right now. Going back, we will use a while loop, right? So I want to go back here and I want to spend a couple of minutes explaining the logic of this, because what we are going to do is very simple. I don't think it's so complicated at all. So as you know, when you make a call, it receives the data, and then from the length of these rows, you can decide whether you want to make a further call or not, right? So you can simply right now say that while the response has 25,000 rows of data, then keep making GSC call. As simple as that, right? That's the starting point. So you can just code this, or you can just start coding here, and you can just literally say that while let's say I'm going to say I is equal to 10, and I will say why I is, so I'll say I is equal to 0 for now. Then I will say why I is less than 10, then print I. But after I will also say I is equal to I plus 1. So it will obviously return this much. But for us, because the response that we are getting is in form of 25,000, so I can start to say something like my start row is 0, and then my response is 25,000 every time. But I cannot say something like more than or less than, right? Do you know what I'm saying? So for that, I have to say, okay, what I'm going to do is I will make a call first, and once I make a call, so here I can say something like this. So let's say I will make a GSC response. So here, let's say get a GSC response. Here I build a request body, and then here I will say get the GSC response. Yes, correct, right? Perfect. So build a request body and GSC response, and we already know how to build a request body. So I will just like complete that as well. So request body is this. We are just going to copy paste the exact same request body because it's no different. So I am just going to make sure while you write a code, you adjust your indents well. So row limit is this. Now in this, we will also have to say start row. So I will say start row is for, I'm going to copy this variable. So my start row is this. So I'm not going to run a function now, but we are saying something like there is some sort of a condition, and while this condition is true, and this is also not the real code, I'm just like saying while this condition is true, keep running this code, and when you run this code, you will also update the rows, and the rows you will update will be of course start row as well. So what you want to do is you want to add 25,000 to your start rows, or you can also actually get a length of response. So you can say calculate the length of response, and we will say something like len response data, and we know what is the response data, right? So I will just copy paste this exactly. So I will do something like this. There are two comments, so I will remove this comment. So response data is equal to webmaster service, search engine, site URL is the website, and body request is the body that we built here. And then we will get the length of a response, and you can also literally just not write this code, and you can say update the start row with the length of this data. Okay. Now, while this function will run, it will always keep updating the start row. And let's actually remove the while statement for now, and let's run this code and see. No, we'll have to keep it. So we will have to code a logic as well, otherwise it won't work. So this is where it comes. So we are going to say something like while start row is equal to 0, because obviously when the function start, the start row is going to be 0, right? So we are going to say while start row is equal to 0, run this function. But there is also another condition, and that condition is when the function should stop. And in our case, the function should stop when the start row becomes not the multiple of 25,000, right? So it could be 25,000 plus 25,000 plus 25,000. If it's a 75,000 is there, that should run. But if that became something like 25,000 plus 1,307, whatever, like 13548, then it should stop, because now we know that you got all the data, you exhausted the rows, and there is no point in making the further call. And for that, we are going to use that modulus operator. And the way modulus operator work is something like this. So I'm going to say, let's say 25,000 modulus 5,000, it will print 0, because if I divide 25,000, let's take a simple example. If I do 8 divided by 2, it's going to be 0. But let's say if I do something like 8 divided by 3, the remainder is going to be 2. So we will use this logic, and we will say, or start row modulus 25,000 is equal to 0. Okay, so we are saying that if keep running it while start row is equal to 0, and start row divided by this is also 0. And as soon as you run that, let's just say what the start row prints, right? So it will start making the call, and yes, because we are actually going to be updating this because there are not row but rows, right? The response has the rows as one element in that the data lives. Okay, so this looks good to me, right? So I'm going to check with another data point that I have on my end, is if I have January, then it should return roughly 70,000 rows, so entire January. And if this works, then it makes sense that the code is working, and it will take a little bit of time. While it does that, we will keep writing the further code. So this is that. I will say define start row, that's fine. I will say create, and 70,000 something that we got. So this is a very simple code for us that basically fetches all the data. Now we'll say create an empty list to store the rows from response. So I will say something like, let's say all responses, which is a very dirty way to say it, but I'm just going to use that. Now, just so fetched up to 25,000 rows of data. Okay, so this will look a little bit better, right? It will print like fetched up to X number of rows of data, and it is helpful basically, so that you can see like what is happening. It says that you cannot concatenate string with integer, and that's fine. So we are transforming the integer into a string by wrapping it into in a str, and that's fine. Now, while this does that, with this beautiful, fetched up to 25,000 rows, we are going to say for loop to save all the rows in all responses. Now, see, you are getting all these responses, but you're not doing anything with it, right? So you need to make a use of it, and you have to save it somewhere. Otherwise, what's the point of it? So I'm going to say for raw in response.rows, all responses dot append and row. Now, as soon as you do this magic is complete, and you have saved all the data that you requested in a list called all responses. And I advise you to come here and always check the length of your all responses first, so you can confirm that the total number of rows that you fetched matches the response that you got, and that's it. This basically, now you have this data living within your world in all responses, and you can access them individually. You can say, give me the first, and it will have something like this. It's like Python framework or whatever that is there. Cool. So you have completed that, like how to use while loop for 25,000 rows of data. Now we will move forward and we will say build a data frame using pandas. And at this time, I think things are going to get interesting for you, because I love using pandas, and I hope you will love it too. Now, again, I would like to show you what the pandas is for a little bit. So if you go, it says it's a Python data analysis library, right? It's beautiful. As you will spend time with it, you will love it. I'm pretty sure about it. I would just take you directly to documentation. You can read all of it here, like how to get started and all of that. I will get you to API reference, what we are trying to do. Okay, so this is the most simple one. So it says import pandas as PD, and as soon as the PD is there, you can start making a use of it. It's customary that we always refer Dataframe as DF, and then you can have something like PD dot, and as soon as you do a dot, you will have a data frame as an instance ready. Let's say PD dot, sorry, import pandas as PD. Now you can do df is equal to PD dot, and it will throw a data frame. It should, yeah, perfect. And here what this code is saying is you can create a data frame by basically writing something like this. So you'll say A, and then you will create a list, and in this list you will have a value. And as soon as you do this, the DF is created, and here is your first data frame that you will create if you haven't created at all, right? So this becomes your data frame, which is some sort of Excel, you could say. Now we are going to use it, and all the data that we have here, we will save it into a data frame. And to do that, once again, we will have to resort to a for loop, and we say for each in all responses, print each. First of all, I generally just like to come and print it, so I get a satisfaction that it is functional, right? Now, before we do this, I will have to create an empty data frame. So I think I'll stop this because there's a lot of data, right? Like 70,000 rows of data. I think I'll have to let it run. Okay, so it broke somehow. That's fine. So I'm going to say make an empty list to build a data frame. And here I'm making an empty list, and I will say something like data for df. This is my empty list. And we will prepare this list in a format that is acceptable to prepare a data frame directly, right? Then we will resort to our for loop, and in this for loop we'll say for each in all responses print each, but we don't want to print it. What we want to do is, if you see that we have all responses, and if you access the first element, within the first element we have something like keys, right? It should load, but didn't. That's fine. So keys, and if you access the first item in this list, it is actually a keyword. So what we will do is we will start preparing each and every item that we have. So we have something like query. So we will say query is equal to what is query? This is query, right? All response 0 keys, no, but it's not actually. The query is actually living in each, because we have accessed the first element, first item of the list already. So this is our list. And if you just want to see what happens or what prints, you can just come here and you can run this. And now it is just printing the keyword or query, which is explanatory, right? So that is fine. So this is, we got an access to query. We also asked for page. Then we also asked for clicks. So we have clicks, and then we have impressions, and then we have CTR, and finally we have position. So all the things that we receive from them. So we'll just use this because the number 0 is actually a query and number 1 is the page in this instance, because we asked for 2 items here, and both these items are living in keys. Keep this in mind that if you ask for more dimension, there are going to be more dimensions in the response, and you will have to change this code accordingly. But now we can access all other elements like clicks. We can access other elements like impression, position, and all of that. And we just literally need to change this name, and we can say CTR, position, clicks, and all of it. So we got that, right? Now we cannot directly make it into a list. So I'm going to make one temporary list here, and we will say temp.append, and then in this I want to append all of this item. This is how it is going to work. So I'll explain in a moment what we are doing. Don't worry. Let me just complete this quickly. So what we are doing is we are saying for each in all responses, which is this response, we separated all the items from dictionary to a small list, and we are saving that small list here. And then we are saying that once that list is saved, we want to append that entire list into a list, and this becomes temp. So we first saved all of this data into this list, and then we saved that entire list into data for DF. So data for DF is actually a list of list, and we will use that list of list to build the data frame directly, and it will all make sense. Just be with me for a moment, right? So we ran the code, fine. I'm not sure if that saved anything. Let's see. Perfect. So we got it. So now you access the first element of the list. It is pretty beautiful that it's not with keys or anything like that. It's not a dictionary. It's just simple list. We don't need to say whether this is a click or impression or CTR every time we receive a response, and that's fine. Why? Because now we are going to create a data frame which says pd.dataframe. It always comes like that, data frame, and you can build a data frame with this entire list of lists directly, and this will be a data frame, and it will look like this. But the only challenge here is that I don't know what is the name of the columns are, because I want to access those columns moving forward. So I use one more function that they have, which is called columns. So you have these columns here, and in this we just need to say what are the names of these columns, but we just need to make sure that whatever the number of elements there are there in the list, those has to match here. So we have query, and then we have page, and then we have clicks, then we have impressions, then we have CTR, and then we have position. So as soon as you do this, now you create a new data frame, and then this data frame has everything that we need, which is query, page, clicks, impression, CTR, and position. And I think this in a sense completes the second thing or third thing, I don't remember exactly, which we are working on, is building a data frame. So just to recap really quickly, what we did is we imported pandas as PD, then we used a for loop to loop through all the responses that we had. We accessed each and every element or items from the dictionary. So we accessed all the dictionary keys and dictionary values. We built a smaller list in temp. We appended the temp to data for DF as a list of list, and then we used that list of list to build a data frame, and we gave the titles of those columns with this code. And as soon as you do that, your entire pandas data frame is ready. Now I think you must have spent a lot of time exporting data and doing bunch of other stuff. But here in this case, this is really simple. You just come and you just literally come and you say df dot and then you can say 2, and this 2 is giving you a lot of different variables, like do you want to save it to JSON or Markdown or Excel or dictionary or CSV. I'm going to save right now as a dictionary. I'll say just data.xlsx and that's that. Like as soon as you do that, it will save here in your folder. And here is your data. So it is writing it right now, 70,000 rows of data, quickly saved without any hassle. And if you want to use this data moving forward somewhere else, you just come, run this function, export this data, and it's yours. So I'll just say export to CSV or Excel. I can also just quickly write a code for CSV for you guys. To CSV data.csv, let's say, and you can just hit play and it is going to do exactly the same thing here. And let's see what the data looks like, right? Just so we are clear that the data is there. So it is downloading. I think that's a kind of a file. Okay, so we got the data. It has query and a lot of things. Sorry. It has page, query, clicks, impressions, and everything that we wanted, and that looks awesome. Okay, now we are moving to the last part, which is accessing dimensions and dimension groups. And for that, I will just copy paste this entire code because we will just edit this code there. So here I am going to give a title and I will say, sorry, I'll say how to use dimensions and dimension groups, and I will add code here. Now I will also open up Search Console API. I will go to API reference really quickly and I will go to dimensions first. So here is a dimension. It says that the value in dimension can be any in dimension filter group filter. So I'm just going to click here and these are your dimensions. You can ask for things like country here. So you can say country. You can ask for device, country, device, page filter, and search appearance also. I'm not going to touch on that right now, but I'm going to access these 4 things, right? Let's see what comes up in the 10 days of data if you ask for all of that. Generally, as you add more dimensions, it will increase the data. At the same time, it will also increase the sampling. And I'm thinking that sometime in future I'll also make a video on sampling, and I will explain what happens there. There are a lot of articles already that explains the sampling that happens. There are ways to reduce the sampling as well, but as you will add more dimension, it will add a lot of data, that is for sure. So this is now running beautifully. It's like fetched up to 25,000 rows, 50,000 rows, 75,000, 100,000, 125,000, and it will just like I think keep running it. I don't know what's the maximum you can do. There are some numbers here as well which says that this is the maximum limit, but now our code is complete. Going forward, I'm just going to make 2 days worth of call just so we are clear. So this is how you can access the dimension. You can also like add a date here. It doesn't mention there, but you can do it. And it will have date, query, page, country, device, all of that. As soon as you add more here, you will also have to add more keys here, and then you will also have to add more number of columns in your Pandas data frame. But let's say here we ask for date, query, page, and all of that. I'm not gonna do it again, but I think you can just do it yourself. Now the last piece of the puzzle is actually filter dimension groups, and I will quickly give one example of that, and then I think we can move. But what I would generally like to do is I use this to build a filter group, because that code in itself is a little bit complex. So I come here and I take this. In this example, I'm use query. I can say query that contains Python, and I'm going to say what is the operator. So I'll say contains, right? So I did this, and I will copy paste this, and this becomes, this entire thing is my dimension. So I will come here, I will paste it. I'm going to make it proper. So it says filters, and here is my dimension. And I can make this in a single line. Right. So this is my dimension. I will also I'll keep this as a separate line. Then I will do this. I'll say here are my filters, and I will join this too. Okay, so here is my first filter. I'm saying give me query and page, nothing else, where query contains Python. Okay. It is giving me error because I forgot a comma here. Okay, so I fetched 2600 rows of data. First thing that I would like to check is whether my condition is satisfied or not, and now it contains the Python. I can also do something like not contains, just to check whether it is making sense or not, right? So let's say not contains, and it will fetch 21,000 rows of data, and it is not containing Python. That's fine. Now you can add as many number of conditions that you would like to add with whatever dimension you would like to add from. So I can also say give me the page URL which contains Python, and for contains you can also actually use this, which is a better source, and not contains, I'm going to use the same thing. So now I'm saying that page should contain Python, but the query shouldn't contain Python. So I am now accessing those pages where the pages has Python in the URL, but those queries do not have Python, and it's going to be interesting. Let's see what comes up. Of course, there are very less rows of data, but here we have something, right? Like apps built with Python, popular apps made with Kiwi, which is fantastic. So now you know how to use a dimension as well. You can add as many things as you would like to add. You can add country here. You can add country. Expression is, let's say, USA, and I will say country. I generally like to use equals, and it says invalid syntax because of course I forgot comma once again, and it fetched only 84 rows of data, which is fine, and it returned a response. Now here one thing which is important to note is you're using your filter groups dimension, but you're not asking for dimension. So I'm using country, and it is honoring that expression and operator on that dimension, but it is not returning me a dimension. So you might want to keep that in mind. Is you can use it here, but you cannot request it here. And I think that's really it. I mean, that completes today's tutorial. Let me know if you have any questions or comments, but I think it is very straightforward, and now you will be able to access all the data that you have in your Google Search Console, and now at least you can start to do things creatively, at least in Excel. Or if you're a self-learner, then you can start using libraries like Plotly and bunch of other stuff to do the things that you want to do. Once again, I would just like to remind that you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm also active on Twitter a little bit, and you can join my newsletter if you are landing on this video from YouTube. And hopefully we'll see you next week with the new topic. I haven't decided the next week topic yet, but it will be soon very clear. Thank you so much once again, and see you next week.